The man who screamed developers, developers, developers just dropped the ultimate masterclass. Steve Ballmer, Microsoft's former CEO, who helped transform a scrappy startup into a $1 trillion empire. He sat down for a marathon of 3 hour podcasts and revealed the exact playbook he used to scale one of the world's most valuable companies. For 34 years, Steve Ballmer was the beating heart of Microsoft. First, as Bill Gates' right hand man, then as a CEO who navigated the company through the explosive growth of Windows, Office, and the early internet era. While his tenure had its controversies, there's no denying the numbers. Under his leadership, Microsoft's annual revenue grew from 25 billion to 78 billion. Now retired and worth over 100 billion, Ballmer just opened up about the hard-won lessons that most executives never learn. These strategies that actually moved the needle when everything was on the line. Instead of sitting through the hours of content, I've distilled his most powerful insights into the business principles that built a tech giant. These aren't feel good platitudes, they're battle tested tactics from someone who lived through Microsoft's highest highs and painful pivots. So, the first strategy is called the IP Blitzkrieg. So, picture this. It's 1980, the IBM, the colossal computing titan, needed an operating system for their groundbreaking new PC. Who did they turn to? Not some established software giant, but a tiny unheard company called Microsoft. Now, here's where Bill Gates pulled off what's been dubbed the single greatest business deal in history. Microsoft didn't have an operating system, but instead of saying no, Gates, with audacious vision, quickly secured the rights to a similar system from a local Seattle company for a mere $45,000. Think about that. A fraction of a percent of what they would become. But here's the genius. The game changer takeaway embedded right in the initial move. Microsoft sold this software, MS-DOS, to IBM. But crucially, they retained the right to sell it to everyone else. This wasn't just a sale, it was an intellectual property power play. It wasn't about building the product from scratch, it was about controlling the access. The strategic lesson here is profound. When a monumental opportunity arises, especially with a major partner, don't hesitate to swiftly acquire or license a key intellectual property, even if it's outside your immediate core. A small, relentless investment in IP can unleash an explosive, long term revenue stream, creating a royalty engine that fuels your unstoppable growth. Microsoft, a company now valued at 3.5 trillion with a T, started its trajectory with its disruptive acquisition, demonstrating the sheer power of IP leverage. Next, we uncover the fortress of predictable profit. Microsoft used to sell software like individual disk, like the disk. The transactional model full of administrative headaches and unpredictable revenue. Then came the enterprise agreement, or EA. Steve Ballmer saw this not just as a pricing model, but as an insurance policy for IT teams. But as an insurance policy for IT teams, what they would offer would be a peace of mind. With the EA, companies paid a fixed annual fee for all their software needs on a computer basis. So for 3 years, with all the upgrades included, this wasn't just a convenient, it was a strategic pivot. So here's the unstoppable principle. For products or services with negligible marginal costs, like software, shift from a transactional model to a comprehensive recurring peace of mind solution, instead of chasing individual sales, Microsoft built a fortress of predictable revenue, giving their customers everything they needed for a steady, manageable fee. This relentless focus on long term relationships and predictable income transformed their financial stability, turning intermittent sales into an unshakable stream of cash flow. It's about building a partnership, not just making a sale, creating a sticky, game changing value proposition that secures your financial future. So, our third strategy is called the Strategic Strength Forge. Steve Ballmer had an almost obsessive belief in building muscle, developing skills and capabilities even if Microsoft didn't need them immediately. So, for example, they were not a hardware company, yet they dove into a hardware design for products like Xbox and Surface. This wasn't a whimsical pursuit. That deep hardware expertise became critically important later for their Azure data centers. They built a massive internet system for Office 365, 365, and Bing before their cloud service. Azure even when it truly took off. So, this reveals a powerful insight. Future proof your enterprise by proactively investing in and forging new capabilities and skills, even if their immediate necessity isn't apparent. It's like a military constantly training and acquiring new tactics, not just for the current conflict, but for any potential battlefield. This foresightful muscle building makes your organization adaptable, resilient, and ready to seize explosive new opportunities when the market shift occurs, preventing you from being blindsided by the next wave of innovation. So don't wait for the storm. Build your ark before it rains. Now, moving into a crucial maneuver for any emerging player, the ride of the bear, which is a strategic alliance. So early in Microsoft's journey, they were a tiny boat navigating alongside a colossal ocean liner. IBM, Steve Ballmer famously described IBM as the sun, the moon, and the stars in the computing world. He called their strategic alliance with this giant riding the bear, a necessary act of staying so close that the colossal partner couldn't trample them and ruin their business. This is a profound lesson in strategic humility and masterful maneuvering. When you're a smaller entity aiming for disruptive growth, sometimes the most unstoppable path is to align with the dominant titans of your industry. So don't confront, integrate. Find ways to be indispensable, to become a useful, symbiotic partner rather than a perceived threat. This requires shrewd negotiation, tactical patience, and the ability to adapt your pace to a larger entity, turning potential crushing competition into a powerful accelerant for your own growth. It's about leveraging existing power structures to unleash your own trajectory. Now, we dissect the locomotive value proposition. So, Steve Ballmer recognized a pivotal truth about Microsoft Enterprise, and that there's a software suite. Email through Microsoft Exchange was the ultimate locomotive. It wasn't just a product, it was the irresistible force that pulled the entire train of Microsoft other enterprise software like Office and SharePoint directly into the business. Companies desperately needed reliable, scalable email, and Microsoft offered the best solution. Conveniently, packaged with all their other tools, the explosive takeaway here is to identify your locomotive, that single must-have product or service that your customer desperately need. This keystone offering acts as an unrivaled entry point, a linchpin that creates an unwavering demand, which then enables you to seamlessly pull in and upsell your entire suite of valuable offerings. Once you solve that core indispensable need, you gain an unprecedented leverage to expand your footprint and multiply your value proposition. It's about finding the ultimate, excuse me, gateway to your customers' ecosystem. Now, onto our sixth strategy, which is the visionary catapult infusion. Capital, let me correct myself. Capital infusion. So Steve Ballmer was famously clear about his willingness to spend heavily on research and development. This often put him at odds with Wall Street investors who clamored for immediate profits and viewed him as a spender. Okay, yet Ballmer was unyielding. He believed the significant, often long-term investments, such as those in surface hardware or deep cloud infrastructure, were absolutely non-negotiable to win in the long run. This demonstrates a core principle of disruptive long-term growth. Don't be afraid to make big bets. Don't be afraid to be bold. Seemingly expensive investments in your future capabilities, even if it means sacrificing short-term profits facing external criticism. Building a dynasty requires relentless commitment to a future-proofing through strategic R&D and capability building. It's about having the courage to plant the oak tree, knowing the shade will only come years later, but it will be profound and unstoppable. This willingness to make bold capital infusions is the bedrock of unrivaled market dominance. Now, let's talk about the talent magnet acquisition. So Steve Ballmer understood that building transformative products required transformative people. He actively sought out and aggressively recruited top-tier experts like Dave Cutler, the genius behind Windows, the Chi Lu for search. He knew that a fundamental truth. Truly great people don't just build great products. They attract other great people. These talent magnets were key to building entirely new and critical parts of Microsoft's empire. The game-changing insights for you. When building a new team, tackling a monumental challenge, or venturing into uncharted territory, your first relentless focus should be on acquiring a few truly exceptional individuals. These talent magnets are more than just employees. They are catalysts. They raise the bar, inspire excellence, and create a virtuous cycle that draws in other high caliber talent, propelling your organization towards explosive growth and unprecedented innovation. It's about building a core of brilliance that radiates outward. Now, we're going to be moving on to our eighth strategy, and it's called the newspaper management. So facing significant internal resistance to a monumental cloud transition, Steve Ballmer took an unconventional step. He delivered a powerful external speech at University of Washington, publicly declaring Microsoft was all in on the cloud. He later explained this wasn't just for external consumption. It was partly a reminder to people to get with it or get out, because people believe that newspaper more than they believe an internal email. This is a masterful move of driving uncompromising internal change. When faced with internal inertia or resistance to a disruptive strategic pivot, consider leveraging highly visible external communications, public speeches, major announcements, even strategically placed media interviews to reinforce internal directives. Sometimes an external declaration, a public vow, carries far more weight and urgency than an internal memos, forcing alignment, dissolving doubt, and galvanizing your team towards a shared unstoppable objective. It's about using external pressure to forge internal unity. And now, if you've made it through this far, I want you to subscribe and share. and comment. Leave a comment. But now we arrive at the last strategy, and it's called the incubator shield. So Azure, Microsoft, massively successful multi-billion-dollar cloud business didn't emerge from existing server and tools product group. It started as an incubation by Ray Ozzie with a completely separate team. Ballmer emphatically stated this separation was the right thing to do to protect the sort of baby while it grows up, to prevent it from being stifled by established business. This is a critical principle for radical innovation. When developing a potentially disruptive new product, new business model, or venture, what you need to do is you need to isolate it. Create an incubator shield around this idea, protecting it from internal politics, conflicting priorities, and the ingrained, often stifling ways of thinking of your established operations. This separation fosters an environment of unbridled freedom, allowing the new venture to innovate, experiment, and grow into an explosive new market without the drag or resistance of the existing corporate gravity. It's how you cultivate the next game changer within your own walls. So, these strategies aren't just historical anecdotes, they are battle tested blueprints for unleashing your own growth. From leveraging intellectual property to building predictable revenue streams, from strategic talent acquisition to orchestrating internal transformations. The lessons from the world's most successful enterprises are right here and waiting for you to apply them. If you're ready to consistently arm yourself with the disruptive insights to decode the strategic DNA of every dynasty builder, then what you need to do is you need to be a part of this community. Hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening. Don't miss the next week's episode. And somewhere on the screen, I covered the 10 best business strategies from Steve Jobs. And click somewhere on the screen to view that. Hit the bell button if you haven't already. And see you on the next episode. Go out there and build your dynasty.